Okay, day 2 of Mishlei 21:10. Nefesh Rasha ivsa ra lo yichan be'einav re'ehu. The soul of a Rasha desires or lusts for evil, for ra. His re'ehu will not find favor in his eyes. His re'ehu either being his fellow, his comrade Rasha, his partner, right? Yeah. So our questions were: what is the Rasha in this context? What is ra in the context? What does nefesh or nefesh Rasha mean? Press that down. What does ivsa mean? Why does the nefesh Rasha lust for ra, or what's the chiddush? Either this was the obvious point or this is the not obvious point. What is chayin in this context? Is it just talking about the feeling, or does it mean in action? He doesn't like show favor. What does it mean that his friend doesn't find favor? So what is that, good or bad or neutral? Who is re'ehu? What is the relationship between the two halves? Who's the audience? If it is re'ehu like his, is it the re'ehu like a bystander? Is it someone else? And what's the practical application? Okay, so our idea yesterday was that basically don't think that the Rasha's chayin is genuine. He's just going to use you to serve his own Rasha needs, even if you're a Rasha like him, right? Don't be like duped by that. Okay. I found though, the thing when you mentioned the Kantian thing, I finally found the one who said something like that. It's actually two people. One is the Ralbag. Okay. So you have the Ralbag in your packet. Actually, I'll use the packet version at the back. All right, I'll say the other thing later. Okay. It is on the last page. Yeah, last page, left column, Yud. Hine yisbar lecha ki nefesh harasha ein ta'avasa ki im ledavar ra. So it's saying that the nefesh Rasha, his desire is only for something bad. Ki lo yuchan be'einav re'ehu, for he does not show favor to his fellow. Okay. Now here's the thing. Okay. V'lu haisa derech haresha tova be'einav. If the derech of evil were good in his eyes, haya roi sheyehav kol mi sheyeschaber eleha, then it would be proper for him to love anyone who joined him in it. Okay. Kamoshi yehav anshe hamala k'tasam es k'tas. Just like people who are anshe mala, meaning like tzaddikim, just like they love each other. Okay, so what's his point here? He's not elaborating very much, but I think there's a point.
He's not necessarily going for like a body of ideas.
Yeah.
Like a tzaddik has like a vision.
Right.
And anyone who joins him in his vision is like a comrade.
Exactly, right. But the Rasha, if that were really true, he would want to help out his fellow Rasha. Right. But why doesn't he help out his fellow Rasha, do you think?
Because they're going to get the spoils.
Because what was it?
They're going to get part of the spoils.
Yeah, is that you have to split it up. It's going to diminish his own thing. It's like a zero-sum game. Like Isaac was saying that. Who's saying that?
Oh,
the Rasha views like a zero-sum game. Was that you?
I don't know. Isaac sent some talk in the group chat about doing things in zero-sum game and how it's not good in negotiations. But
okay. Yeah, I thought someone mentioned that term yesterday. So similarly to that, Saadia Gaon, not here, but in Mishlei 1:7, which if you're keeping score at home, 1:7 is one of the most important pasukim in Mishlei. Okay, it is the the thesis statement of Mishlei. Okay, Yiras Hashem Reishis Da'as Chachma Umusar Evilim Bazu. So fear of Hashem is the beginning of knowledge. What?
I thought it was Bo, not Bazu. I just missed the letter.
Oh, yeah. Well, it doesn't say it on the screen. Bazu.
I tried to remember.
Oh, yeah. That's fine. Yeah. Fear of Hashem is the beginning of knowledge. Wisdom and discipline is scorned by fools or fools despise. Now, I have my own shot on this. And I don't think Saadia Gaon's shot is the best shot, but it does work out for our pasuk. Okay, so we're not even gonna go over the whole thing. Here's what he says: that what does it mean that they scorn chachma and musar? So Saadia Gaon says, I'm starting partway through his commentary here, like this. Okay, and I think I'm reading this correctly, but if you sense that I'm not, then feel free to interject. V'amru chachma umusar evilim bazu v'hu ma'amaros of hechlatios. So this statement that chachma and musar is scorned by fools is a definitive statement, meaning it's not like we said in Mishlei, some statements are stated in an absolute manner, but they really are like probability or like most cases. He's saying this is like by definition, they hate chachma and musar. Why? Kavanaso bakach. So the intent in this is lo yivaze es chachma v'musar kim ha'eviel. The only ones who will despise or scorn chachma and musar is a fool. Mishlei fool. Ki ha-musar Mishamachish oso mibnei adam harihu matir es hachamas. So if you despise musar, you are being matir violence. Okay, let's follow his argument here. Okay, we'll read it all the way through and then we'll go back. Ve'eno matir es hachamas el mibnei shehu ladato misameach es hachomes. And the only reason why he is matir violence is because it brings pleasure to the violence doer. So take the Rasha who steals from someone or who does violence to them. Why is he doing it, or what's his basis for doing it? Is it makes me happy, right? It's like it brings me pleasure. Okay, so that's his basis. He's saying that if that which brings me pleasure is mutter. Okay. The im hadavar kfi shehu omer. But if the matter is the way he says, shekol davar hamasameach es hateva hu chachma, that anything which makes your instinctual nature, which brings pleasure to your instinctual nature, is wisdom. Umasha mitzara hu sichlos, and that which brings you pain is foolishness. Hare ha'ivul v'hachamas misamchin es ha'oshech u'mitzarim es ha'neshach. So injustice and violence bring pleasure to the offender, but they cause pain to the victim. And then you're going to end up in a contradiction that you have something that's chachma and foolishness together. And this is the utmost foolishness and would only be said by a fool. Okay, so let me give you an easier example of this. I think this is the like in I can't ask Isaac in Pirkei Avos chapter 5. It says there are 4 middos among people. There's shali, v'shalach, shalach. That's what is mine is mine, is what is yours and yours. That's either Benoni or that's like middos Sodom, right? Then there's shali, v'shalach, shali. What is mine is mine, and what's yours is mine. That is Rasha. Then shali, shalach, v'shalach, shalach. That's what's mine is yours and what's yours is yours. That's a chassid. And then shali, shalach, v'shalach, shali. What's mine is yours and what's yours is mine. And that's a shote, I think, or an idiot. So you use some word for idiot, I think. I forgot what it is. Yeah. Anyway, so Amar. Oh, is it Amar? Okay. Yeah, we can check. We have Mishlei, but so the contradiction here is in the Rasha, because if the Rasha really holds as a philosophy, shali, v'shalach, shali, so that can't be a consistent philosophy that can be employed on a society-wide level. He can't actually hold that as a principle, because then he would say that if someone steals from, if you steal from me, then you're doing good also. Like he can't hold it as consistent philosophy, whereas the tzaddik can hold righteousness as a consistent philosophy. So I think these points are all related. And again, I'm not saying this is what you said, but it is, there's this idea of like reciprocity, or like that's not the right term here. That universal. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, universal. If you expand this as universal, what is it going to look like? And if it ends in destruction or in self-destruction, then there's something irrational in it. So let's apply that to our pasuk and see if we could work out a pshat that way, based on that. Wait, maybe there's one more person also. Give me 1 second. The Malbim, I think, says something similar.
I also looked at one again, but I'll wait after Malbim.
Okay, sure. I think, yeah. Okay, the Malbim says something funny. Chaim, you said about Aristotle said it first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so he says like this. I think he's talking about Aristotle. Nefesh Rasha ifsa ra lo yuchan be'inav re'ehu hagam shebir hachoker sheha'ahava timsad bein hashavim. Even though the choker, the investigator, explained that love can be found between people who are the same, and I think that's a quote from Nicomachean Ethics, and I think he's calling Aristotle the choker. Okay, umeharoi shetimsa ha'ava bein harashayim, and it would be logical, it would be proper to find love between rashaim, because they're, like, favors like. Ber hachacham, so the chacham that Shlomo HaMelech explains, shah Rasha lo yuchan re'ehu be'enav, that the Rasha will not find favor, his friend will not find favor in his eyes. Mitzad shenefesh Rasha ifsa ra, because the soul of the Rasha desires evil. V'zeh mishnei panim, this is for 2 reasons. 1, shekol Rasha yesh lo netiya l'ra'a acheres. Every Rasha has an inclination towards a different ra. Ze noef, this guy's into adultery. Ze gonev, this guy's into theft, uchadom, and things like that. The inam shavim b'tavasam, and they're not the same in their taiva. Whereas a tzaddik is striving for the common good for all people. Okay, I think I used this to explain, I don't know if this is in our shir or not, but you'll notice in many Mishlei pasukim that tzaddik, if you have a pasuk that's tzaddik and Rasha, the tzaddik is in the singular and the Rashaim are in the plural, or chacham and evilim. And there's different explanations for that. My understanding is that there are many, many, many ways to go bad or to be foolish, but those who are in line with justice and righteousness are going to be united in the for the good. Hold on just one second. Just pause this for 1 second here. Pause. Okay. So that's what he's saying here is that the Rashaim will not be unified because they're all into different types of bad. Okay. And they might even be contradictory, right? Like this guy who is into, let's say you have a guy who's into power, and that would necessitate a certain like imposing a certain type of like corrupt lawfulness onto the society. And you have another guy who's into lawlessness, so they're going to conflict, you know. Or one guy is into theft, and the other guy is into like one guy's into like mafia, right? We have to think of the mafia. Yeah, right. One guy's into like organized crime. The other guy's into like self-serving crime that is like, that's going to contradict with the mafia. He might tread on the mafia's turf, you know. Okay, 2, shagam hara sheyishve ba imreyehu eno rotze es hara. Okay, this is the part I'm not sure if I understand. Also, the evil that he is the same in with his fellow, eno rotze es hara. He doesn't, unless it's eno rotze es harea. He doesn't want a friend with. Let's see. Kiodea shehu bilti nirtze etel haratzon v'abchira hasichlis. He knows that this thing is not desirable from the perspective of intelligent choice. Rak misave el hara v'tavaso al tsehu el zeh v'yodeshu ra v'shehu maguna. I'm not sure what argument he's making. He's saying that rather he desires evil, and his desire al tsehu el zeh propels him towards this. V'yodeshu ra v'shehu maguna, and he knows that it's bad and despicable. V'alkein chavero harasha nivze beinav. There we go. Therefore, his fellow Rasha is despicable in his eyes. Kiyodeshu bal taiva v'ra, and he knows that because he knows he's bal taiva and he's bad. Yeah, right. So he's saying they're not going to get along. Like this degenerate guy, he might be doing it for the pleasure, but the fact that another guy is doing it doesn't give him pleasure, and he's just going to view this guy as like corrupt, or as degenerate. So I'm saying, again, I'm not saying that the Malbim and the Ralbag and Saadia Gaon are all saying the same thing, but I think there's a commonality here that he's saying that there is a universality and a natural partnership that Tzaddikim are going to have that is going to be impossible for the Rashaim due to the nature of Rasha and due to the character of the Rasha,
Did anybody say anything like, if you have a thief and another thief, like they're not going to want, at the end of the day is to have the most amount of stuff, right? Yeah. If you have 2 people, then you have to split the stuff.
Yeah. So
they automatically like.
Right. So again, we'll bring up the other thing we said after share that we had to bring up is the scene from the Joker, which we brought up, or from the Dark Knight. Yeah, which we brought up last week, right? Yeah, is that in the opening scene of the Dark Knight, then they all are involved in this bank heist, and as each one does his task, he gets killed by his friend, so that it splits the pot even more for each one, and then eventually, at the end, then it's only one guy who gets everything. That's the implication. Yeah. So let's just try to see what idea we get from the pasuk. Let's see, like a unified way. Nefesh Rasha ivsa ra lo yuchan be'inav re'ehu. So I think this is going with the therefore reading, right? That because the nefesh of the Rasha desires ra, therefore his fellow will not be find favor in his eyes. Yeah.
Also, I think this will help with reading the pasuk. I was wondering why even that, it's still what's the desiring here? But I think there's particularly with someone who's scheming, but anybody who's creating this whole grand thing.
Schemers. That was another Dark Knight line. Yeah.
They enjoy watching other people burn along the way. Anybody they've got to the out of that.
Very good.
And then they're gone. That just very much they enjoy seeing that too, and all the people they were able to knock down just to get themselves to the top. I think that in itself they get enjoyment out of.
Okay, so that's more along the lines of what you were saying yesterday, which is that we know that the Rasha will desire to do evil for his own benefit, but that there's an element that the Rasha desires to do evil just to watch the world burn. Which I want to I want to explore that in its own right because the Radak says something like that. Okay. How are you saying that is? Are you saying that is in line with this approach, or this is a different?
Well, I thought about before, and then when you were reading Saadia Gaon on Aleph Zayin, I also thought it was maybe had some similar things going with that. But I just think you could also read that into when we talk about how he lusts for evil.
Yeah.
Just if we're trying to get like a reading the pasuk, I think. Work that in.
Yeah. I just thought of a good example for the Saadia Gaon principle, which is like let's say you have a Rasha and he is raising his son. Okay, so how is he going to raise his son, right? So if he raises his son to say that stealing is something that is good, so there has to be a worry that his son is going to someday just like kill him and like take his stuff, you know? Here's a good example of this. Who brought up yesterday? Someone after she also brought this up. Was he about the Sith?
Wasn't me also feeling like?
Oh, it was Kisyahu. He wasn't in cheer. Is with the, you know, you have this rule of in Star Wars, right? That there are only two Siths. There's the master and the apprentice. This is the bad the opposite of the Jedi, right? These are the bad guys, right? So there's always the master and the apprentice, and what always happens is that the apprentice kills the master, you know? So like it just, you know, so if you have a Rasha who really believed in the Derek Rasha, he would really have to teach his kid and raise him to have that. But that itself is gonna, if the kid is really successful as a Rasha, the kid is gonna kill his father and like take over the you know, whatever his father amassed from his Rasha, you know? So it's just, it can't be a consistent thing. It just does not work out for everybody. You know, and it's funny because, it's not funny. It makes sense. This comes down to the same principle that we said yesterday, but the emphasis is different. Yesterday, the emphasis is, the moral of the story was don't be duped by the chayin shown by a Rasha. The moral of the story here is if you get into the evil business, into the Rasha's lifestyle, so then you're going to face up against this contradiction, and you might be on the receiving end of it. You know, you're immersing yourself in a contradictory lifestyle that's going to be self-destructive based on the people you interact with, and it's hard because there is such a thing as strength in numbers. You know, so the Rasha will want to ally with other Rashaim in order to be able to perpetuate their own evil for their own self-interest. But there's going to be an inherent tension there that they always have to be looking out for, you know, looking behind their over their shoulder and like worried that the other guy's going to take advantage of them.
Well, that was what made Hitler really, you know, what's it called at the end? Very
paranoid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. So let's now explore this other approach that the Rasha has a desire for Ra even when it doesn't directly serve him. Okay, so the one I found who says this the best, again, also not in your commentary here, sorry, is the point I want to make before. Okay, so I think just in line with Allah Torah goodness, this is not with Mishlei. I don't think he's done this with Mishlei yet. So I noticed in the Chumash commentary, okay, in the menu, I noticed that Rabbeinu Yonah changed the order, okay? And I think what he did is he put it chronologically, okay? So you have at the top the Targumim, and he put lines in between them based on their era or their type, and the Midrashim. And then you have Saadia Gaon and the Gaonim, then the Rishonim, and it's all in chronological order of when they lived, all the way through the end of the Rishonim. And I like how he also includes the Rabbeinu in the Rishonim category. That's my svara also, is that really he's a Rishon, even though he's in the Achronic period, although he doesn't include Sforno there. Yeah. And then maybe he's doing it based on chronology though. And then he goes through the Achronim and then ending off with the most contemporary ones. So I think that's really good because I think it irks me when people who are, okay, high schoolers just have no sense of the chronology of like they think like Rashi and Rabbi Kiva were like buddies, you know. But it bothers me when people who are involved in learning don't have a sense of chronology. Now I'm guilty of this in terms of Gemara and the Tanaim and Amoraim. I really don't have a good sense of like first, you know, generation Tanaim and Amoraim, you know. But I don't know. I think this is a good move. But I don't think he's done it in Mishlei yet because you see that the Yalkut Shimoni is all the way down there. Yeah. Anyway, I was going to say Radak. Radak says, Nefesh Rasha, Harasha hu misavev benafsho tamid lasos ra, Umisnaheg ba'achzarios im re'av v'lo yachon alehem b'tzarasam. Okay, is that really the one I was looking at? The Rasha desires in his soul constantly to do evil, and is misnaheg ba'achzarios, with cruelty, im re'av, with his friends, v'lo yachon alehem b'tzarasam. He doesn't have compassion on them in their tzara. Now, you could say that that's like the Rabbeinu Yonah said yesterday, that even when his friend is in misfortune, he is going to he's not going to have mercy on them. But to me, misnaheg ba'achzarios, something about that makes it sound like he is like that. That's like a consistent behavior, that he is consistently cruel to his friends. I don't know if this is the one I was looking at now. I'm questioning myself
I
again.
think of like Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Like this whole like thing that we've been painting, this whole picture. Yeah, like, and I mean this specifically though is that like they were all it's everything's in jest, but then you recognize that it's never really actually in jest. That they're constantly just like rating each other to like put each other down.
Yeah. I definitely get that sense also. You see that in social groups of bullies as well, that they definitely mock and victimize other people, but they do it to each other also, So where does that stem from? Other than the stereotypical like Rasha caricature, like he's a mean guy,
Well, I tend to think that, especially just using the Goodfellas example, I tend to think of it as from like a, not self-conscious, but I keep losing words.
Yeah.
Happening really often. Self-esteem, I guess, like from a
right,
a low self-esteem.
boosting themselves up by putting other people down. Yeah,
it's kind of like what
that would be consistent with the profile of the Rasha. Yeah, man, I had an idea also, but I don't remember where it was. Can we switch gears to another? We can interject if we have other approaches here, but I want to go over the Meiri. Okay, Meiri takes a completely different approach, which is also similar to something I said yesterday. And you do have this. The Meiri is on the bottom right.
No.
Yeah, okay. So I mentioned yesterday that nefesh could either mean the instinctual part of you or it could also mean the rational part of you. So I think he's taking it as the rational part. He says, remez bo she'af hamachshava l'ra hi ra. So this is alluding to the fact that even the planning for evil is evil. Okay. Ki hamachshava sibas hamasa, because plans are the cause of action. V'amar she'nefesh Rasha tachmod hara. And it says that the soul of the Rasha, meaning the thinking, planning part of him, covets ra. V'chein shetira atma kichomedes hara b'hishtadla lahasigo. I don't know what this means. V'chein shetira, you will also, or tirae atma, it will show itself as if it is coveting ra when it strives to attain it. And I think the it here is the machshava. The machshava of the Rasha, is manifestly covetous of ra. I don't know what he means by that though.
He's like enjoying fantasizing.
That's what I was wondering if it means that. Yeah, meaning it's meaning like ordinarily machshava is something that is internal, and you plan and then you act on it. But this is something that it'll be like manifest, that the plotting of evil is something that is enjoyable to it. V'lo yuchan be'enav re'ehu. In the eyes of the Rasha, that he will not strive in robbing him and cheating him. I don't know what this means.
Meaning he will?
That he will?
Yeah. It's like a double negative.
V'lo yuchan be'enav re'ehu. Ratzalomar be'ene harasha. Meaning he does not favor him in such a manner where he would not strive to rob him or cheat him, meaning that he really, if he showed favor on his friend, he would not rob him or steal from him, but he does not have favor on him, which means he does not rob him. Yeah, correct. Yeah. Okay. So So what is this saying? So according to him, the chiddush is from the first half, right? The real chiddush is that af hamachshava l'ra hi ra. But the question is, what's the connection between the first half and the second half? The second half is like what we've been saying, right? That he's even going to victimize his friend. But what does that have to do with the first half? Okay, let me try this. Maybe we're saying that he fantasizes about the planning itself, right? So it could be that the fantasizing about it is what it contributes to his decision to victimize his fellow Rasha. Meaning, there's what we've been talking about, which is you'll victimize your fellow Rasha because you just want the maximum spoils, or you're going to do whatever it takes to like get ahead. But in the world of fantasy, then you're going to get caught up in that, and and that's going to lead you to harm your friend also. I'm trying to think of a good example.
That's gonna come to the point where you want to dupe the dupers. Like you want to like that's the ultimate fantasy at that point.
That is a good example. Yeah, that's narrower than the pasuk is talking about, but it is an example of the phenomenon. Yeah, Doug?
I'm just also thinking, as this is happening, his Rasha buddy is probably also doing the same type of thing, right?
Yeah.
Because they're both at the same time, like thinking like plotting their next plans.
Yeah.
And as they're like laying the groundwork
Yeah.
for whatever they're going to be doing next, they're going to keep crossing each other over. And so as like this guy, he starts planning some of the stuff out. And he's going to start to like find ways he could start like using his buddy, but using his buddy. That buddy's gonna be doing the same thing in French.
Right.
And they're both going to end up like messing each other over.
Right. So that's an interesting combination of the two approaches, the Saadia Gaon Malbim Ralbag approach and this approach, which is that that approach is saying how their interests cannot be aligned. And this is saying that in their plans, their interests are going to not be aligned, right? Like in his plans, each one is presupposing he's using the other one. Yeah. Yeah, the Meiri seems to be putting more emphasis on the fact that the machshava itself is bad. I'm not sure. Let's read on though, because he gives a different idea, and this one takes us into a Rambam that we discussed in a Q&A recently. V'yesh lomar or v'yesh lefarish nefesh rasha ivsa rash af mitzad hataiva. So you could also say that nefesh means taiva, not thought. Alpha pishlo yishtada ba'asiyasa, even though you don't strive to act on it, aval sheyichbosh yitzra alav, but you control your yetzer, nikra ra, you're still called bad. Okay. Achar shechamad v'his ave ba'avera, since you are lusting and desiring to do an avera. Okay. Now, so he's saying like this: a bad taiva, you can still be called bad for that. Okay, even though you don't act on it. Okay, but now he brings up a contradiction from Chazal. The Chazal Amru Hefech Zeh, but the Chazal say the opposite of this. This is when they say Lo Yomer Adam Efshi Ba'achilas Chazir V'Kiyotzav. Right? They say a person should not say I don't want pork, I don't want shadnas, I don't want arayos. Ella Yomar Efshi. Rather, a person should say I want it. Aval Ma'aseh V'Kadosh Baruch Hu Gazar Alai. What am I supposed to do? God decreed upon me. So Miman Afshach, is desire for evil bad or not? Right, Chazal seems to be saying it's not bad, and in fact, it's good to desire these things. Okay, so he is now going to quote the Rambam's answer. Anyone know the Rambam's answer?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Things that basically in other than the you should not want to do pure sins, and the opposite.
Correct. Although he uses slightly different categorizations, right? It's not yeah. So he calls it, and he reluctantly calls it by this. So let's see. He quotes Elisha Gedolei Chachmeinu Zal Yeshivu. Yes, I'm just wondering how to vocalize that. It means that he answered it, right? You know about the Meiri's nicknames? So in the base, the nicknames used in the base of L'chira. So in the base of L'chira, he nicknames all the Rishonim. So the Gedolei HaMefarshim is, I think, the Ravid. The Gedolei HaMechabrim is the Rambam. The Gedolei HaChacham. He has all these names. He calls them like each one the greatest of something. I think this must be before he wrote the base of L'chira, because he calls the Rambam the Gedolei HaMechabrim in the base of L'chira, but here he's calling him Gedolei HaChachmenu. Whatever. So he says, "Shebachilas chazir b'kiyotze bo minamitos hashmayos." So, in terms of the eating of pork in the obedience-based mitzvos, okay, which is what we call chukim, ein chachimud behem ra, then desiring them is not bad. Achar shekavash es yitzro mehem, since he's conquering his inclination in them. If you want pork, that doesn't indicate any corruption in your nature. Pork is good, right? Tastes good. So there's nothing wrong with desiring pork. But if you have a desire for things that are prohibited by rationality, like robbery and violence and murder, yoru al tevara, that is indicative of a corrupt character. Even when you control your actions. And about those things, it's saying nefesh rasha ivsa ra, the soul of the wicked lusts for ra. And this is what it says afterwards. His fellow will not find favor in his eyes. That in the eye of his desire, then he wants to harm him. So the point here is that if you desire that which is objectively ra, then that still is ra. Don't think that the ra is only in terms of action. And the manifestation of this is going to be that you're going to view your fellow as a potential victim of your ra. So what's the Mishlei idea we get out of this? I mean, the Rambam was talking in the realm of philosophy. By the way, this is in, just so you know where it is, this is in Shmona Prakim in, I think it's the sixth parak? Yeah, thanks. Sixth parak of Shmona Prakim. Yeah, so what's the Mishlei idea here? I think we actually said this in Rabbeinu Yonah on the previous pasuk. Was it Rabbeinu Yonah who said that? Oh no, I'm talking on Monday night. On Monday night this week, Rabbeinu Yonah said, yeah, let me look at it. Hold on. Mishlei 11:5. No, 11:4. No, it was 11:5. Oh, I just saved it in the wrong file. Mishlei 11:5. Ralbag Yonah says, I'm just going to pull out from Ralbag Yonah here. He says, he says, it is impossible for middos to not manifest themselves in action. Okay, meaning if you have a bad midah, and by bad midah here we mean we're not talking about eating pork, because he's saying that that's not a bad midah, right? There's nothing wrong with that at all. But he's saying if you have a bad midah, like being attracted to murder or theft or whatever, so then it will ultimately express itself in action, and even against your friend, So what's the? I feel like we need to bring it home into a Mishlei practical point. I feel like it's still on the theoretical level.
There's a suggestion that could come with then, just if you see these things coming up, like to not let them stew around in your head.
Yeah. I think there is he's talking to a person who thinks that because I can control my actions, then I will not end up causing the bein adam l'chavero harm.
Your thoughts run wild then.
What do you mean?
Well, like if you're just gonna then so I'm not going to actually all these crazy plans and thoughts that I have, whatever. They're they're
in my mind.
Yeah, but they're not actually. I'm never going to actually do them.
Right. So he's saying that if the thoughts are in the realm of bein adam l'chavero or mitzvos sichlios, right, then you still need to continue to work on the internal world, even when you've mastered control over the outside world, because truthfully, you cannot master the outside control on your actions. Your middos will emerge in the right circumstances, And I think that's an important thing for Mishlei, because Mishlei does put so much emphasis on the actual actions that you're doing. It's easy to get caught up in that extreme where you basically tell yourself that as long as I can make the right decision, then I'm good. But this is saying that there's a realm of middos also that will sprout, if you don't continue to work on the inner thing. Yeah.
What's the second half of the pasuk?
I think it's saying the consequence that as a result of, if you find in yourself a ivsa ra, of being an ivsa ra, like having a taiva l'ra, then you might even mistreat your friend. And you see people who do this, by the way, that they could have someone who's actually like a friend of theirs, and in the right circumstance, they'll end up acting in a way that is extremely cruel or harmful to their friend. And then they'll look back and they'll be like, how could I do that? That was my friend. Well, the answer to how you could do it is you have this midah in you, like there's a, hold on just a second. There's a pshat Rabbi Moskowitz gave on some pasukim earlier in Mishlei. That was really, that was really good. I don't know if this is like pshat, but it says at the end of chapter 3, okay, this string of like these obvious things, okay. Al timna tov mi ba'alav biyos le'el yad chalasos. Don't withhold good from its rightful recipients if you have the ability to do it. Al tomar l're'acha lech vashuv machar etein. Don't tell your friend, come back tomorrow and I'll give it to you, v'yesh itach, when you actually have it with you. Al tachrosh el re'acha ra'a. Don't plot evil for your friend, v'hu yoshev levetach itach, when he sits securely with you. Al tarid im adam chinam. Don't start up a fight with someone for no reason. Im lo gamalcha ra. If he didn't do bad to you. So the question is like, what kind of a jerk would do any of these things? Like someone comes to you and says, "Can you give me this thing?" And you have it, and you're like, "No, I'll come back tomorrow." So I remember Rabbi Moskowitz's shot was that like, no, you are a jerk, and you do have these tendencies in you, and it just takes the right circumstance to bring them out. And so like. And you might do this to someone who's actually like your friend and who you like, if you're in your right mind, you would never do this to your friend, but in the right circumstance, you would. And that's what this pasuk is like telling you that you have to like continue to work on and not just trust in your ability to control your behavior. Yeah. Okay. So let's just do a quick summary and then we'll stop for today. So we had our first idea, the cluster of Ralbag, Malbim, and Saadia Gaon, which is that the interests of the Rishaim cannot ultimately be aligned and reconciled. They're going to tread on each other and lead to mutual destruction or self-destruction, right? And therefore, it's Evilim Bazu definitively that the philosophy cannot work out in a consistent, universal manner. Okay, and if you raise your kid to be a Rasha, then he'll kill you and take your money, right? Then there was the idea of the Meiri. I'm skipping over the Radak. The idea of the Meiri of the Machshava being Ra, which is what we're saying now, which is that it's going to manifest itself in action, and don't think that the control over the decisions is going to preclude action, because all middos will ultimately manifest themselves in action. Those are the two basic ideas. Okay. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.